We've had a request. Yeah, it's on. We've had a request to move the agenda about because we have two people that need to make the vote. And the Simpkins have been nice enough to go third instead of first. So we'll start with, after presentation by the applicant, members of the public will be allowed 2 opportunities to speak on the agenda items. The chair will ask if anyone from the public has questions of the applicant to understand the project. After questions are closed, the chair will ask if anyone from the public has comments. Members of the public will have up to 3 minutes per person to comment. Comments should be limited to the exterior design of the building and site. Comments will not be allowed as to the interior design or use of the project. Thank you for participating. And we should introduce ourselves. Introduce yourself.
Mike Dillon.
Elizabeth Moss.
Arlene Tunney.
Mike Dillon.
Martha Ball.
Bill Cook.
Okay. So our first one up here is Glenn Fontecchio for construction of a replacement structure for the Harborside Hotel.
Hi, everybody. So, I guess this is a little different than a lot of times when I'm showing you things. How do you want to proceed? You
Is
want me
your
to,
mic on?
appears to be, yep, green light's on. How do you want me to just kind of generally walk you through and then you ask me questions or?
Okay.
Okay, so what I did, and I apologize, where this is just massing at this point. I don't have my final survey back. They're finalizing all of that right now. But working off of the existing site plans, what I did is worked on top of the existing footprint with a few modifications. I increased the setback on Chapel Street so that the sidewalk will be roughly 9'6", so that when people are coming in and out of those shops, they're not literally stepping off the curb into traffic. I maintained a 3-foot offset from the property line on the adjoining lot to Weldon's Way where the bikes are located. And that was strictly from a building code standpoint to allow for windows in that surface. And then on the interior lot line to Oddfellows Hall, I've pulled the building back 6 feet from the property line, again, for allowing for windows meeting current code requirements, and also so that that alley feels a little more generous.
Glenn, what was the second setback you mentioned?
On the property setback between the Weldon Way lot, which is where all the bicycles are, and the little bike shack, and this property, I'm holding the structure back 3 feet from the property line, so I'm actually allowed to have windows in that back wall. The existing structure had windows, but they would not be allowed with current code. So that's what I did in terms of the sizing of the structure, and I'll tweak it slightly once I get back the final survey.
What about Chapel Street? What's the setback there?
I've pulled it back so that the sidewalk is roughly 9'6".
Okay.
So that again, right now it's a really narrow sidewalk, especially
It's
that
6
choke
feet right now.
that choke point's awful. When you open the door, you're literally at the curb, so a decent sidewalk. Then the next thing I did is is this adjustable? I had started with the original structure, and in some ways, maybe the thing to do is if you flip all the way back to P3, that's the photo just after the fire had occurred. The way I approached this was from this view, wanting to keep it as close to what had been there previously as possible, with a couple of things that I discovered as I got into this. The ceiling heights in the basement, those shops were really poor. They didn't meet current building code for height. And then when I got to the mansard roof dormers, those windows are way too small for egress code. So as I started trying to work with these elements, I needed to extend the building. So the building's about 4 feet, give or take, taller than what was there. The other thing is that the existing mansard top was a very flat mansard top. You can see it's collapsed here in this photo, but it was a very shallow mansard top. I'm going closer to what you see at New Shoreham House so that it meets requirements for water resistance for asphalt shingle roofs. Because I wanted it to be entirely encased with an asphalt shingle roof as opposed to getting into a membrane roof up there. Frankly, you're never really going to see that portion of it unless you're way out at the ferry. When you're on Water Street, that top part of the mansard disappears. So when you go to the next page, and again, this is an approximation, you can see how the proposed structure would relate to the other structures. I did do some research with some help from some other folks. We did find a photograph very early on of this structure that did have a mansard, and Mike would like to recreate a mansard up there. Again, with the survey, and once I have true grades and everything, I will finalize heights. Right now, it appears that the height based on average existing grade is about 44 feet, which, because the side towards Oddfellows Hall was much higher, the side to Chapel Street's much lower. With that, there is a provision that for hotel structures that you're allowed to meet the other structures within a distance of, I believe it's 500 feet. Again, that's something I'm going to have to work out the details with zoning. But in terms of how I got to where I am, this was a matter of taking the number of floors that were there, reworking things to get required egress windows, and then worked from there proportionally. In terms of the layout of the structure, it, instead of being, I don't know if you remember the old structure, the bottom was the entire block basically filled with building, and as it went up, it stepped in. So the first floor was the entire block. When you got to the first floor of rooms, there were these really odd rooms that actually faced into a light well in the middle of the building.
I was never in it.
Oh, it was odd. So what I've done is instead turn this into a C-shaped building so that you get a normal width corridor and room on either side, but everybody faces outward instead of into an interior actually well. Because I think this well was like 6 or 8 feet. Do you remember?
It was actually more than 8 feet.
It was?
It was a good size.
And so now all these rooms are laid out for queen size beds with ensuite bathrooms. There's 2 code compliant fire stairs, which previously the stairs were not current code compliant. An elevator. There's now from the grade level, a side lobby that you enter in, and that stairway and elevator brings you up to the main lobby. So everybody has basically the same arrival experience. In terms of materials, this is early because this is just massing, but we're going to be going back with materials that basically match what was there previously. Most of that building had already been converted, I believe, to cement board siding. But all of the trim will be approximating what was there, probably in a composite material so it's maintainable, but not thin wall materials like vinyl siding, but solid materials. Okay, tear at me.
Okay, I have a couple of issues. One is the building is higher than the 40 feet allowed.
Yes.
So you know, I would say that before we can approve anything for massing, you have to go before zoning and get permission from them.
Well, I guess that's a legal counsel question. My experience from the other end is that we give a preliminary approval, a massing approval before a project goes to zoning, because that is a recommendation one way or the other. But again, that's up to you and your counsel.
Okay, and the other issue I have is that under the ADA, handicapped individuals have to be able to access it the same way as unhandicapped individuals. And the reality, people are going to come into what's the lobby on the first floor. Or the second floor, whatever.
Right.
A2. And the poor handicapped people, they have to go in from the side. And how do they get to that side door? They're probably going to be left off in the front or in the back. Where's your handicap parking?
Well, there's no parking on this site because it's the middle of your
Well,
commercial
that,
strip.
that again is zoning. You know, we need to.
Well, there already is a zoning relief on the parking on this parcel. But again, that's a zoning matter, and of course, we will have to get their sign offs.
So those are my issues, the handicap access and also handicap egress, because how does handicapped person doesn't have two means of egress from this building?
Yep, but again, this building's been designed to all the requirements of code. I mean, there's 2 fire stairs,
Well, I'm saying.
fully
handicap-
sprinkled.
Handicapped egress,
Well, as you know, in a fire, an elevator is not
right?
egress.
That's, I know that. That's why I'm asking you.
So just like any other high-rise structure, it's a fully sprinkled building, there's requirements for,
Do you have stations on the stairs where, where
they're not required.
they're not?
No, they're not.
You don't, really?
Yes.
How come? I don't
Hmm?
know.
But again, I will have to negotiate all of that stuff out with the building inspector.
Well, that's a federal thing. The building inspector doesn't,
Well, they
doesn't
applied the building
enforce
code.
that.
If you could maybe just walk us through the logic of how you got to this fenestration and the cupola. I mean, going through the history of the building, I mean, they're limited, but there's some really great photos, you know.
Mhm. I
1880s building, smaller structure, had 6 window bays across.
Right.
Eventually, in addition, it became 10 window bays across. And I think for most, and Martha probably knows better than anyone, but I think for most of its life, it was 10 window bays across. And suddenly, it looks like it's 8 windows bays across.
Yes.
And then same if you could talk us through the logic of the cupola. Historically, there was a cupola
Right.
early in the 1880s, which looked vastly different than what's proposed.
Yep.
And then I think probably by the 19 teens, there was no cupola. I don't know whether you would know that better.
I don't know that for sure.
But so if you could go through the logic,
Okay,
because I know
sure.
you did
Well,
some research. to
In
where you
terms
got
of the
to.
spacing of the windows, it is strictly based on making these hotel rooms work and getting as efficient a layout as we can. It works so that there's one window stack is a stack of rooms. And as far as the cupola goes, the applicant was aware that the structure had previously had a cupola, had even long before this whole incident happened, had wanted to look into the potential of recreating a cupola up there. Because a number of the
So
more
what's the
stately
basis of
hotels on the
design
island
of
had
this
their
cupola, I guess?
What was
Because
that?
what's the basis of design for this cupola? Because I don't see the connection to either this building or, I'm just curious where.
Meaning the specific shape of this cupola
Yeah.
or, well, again, this is a new structure. This isn't what was there before. It's a square shaped cupola picking up on the character of the arched head of the window in the dormers and the dormer. But again, this is a preliminary design. We're talking about the main massing of the building.
Understood, I just
The
want us
detail
all
of the
to understand
cupola,
the
I
logic of
frankly,
how we've
yeah,
gotten to
frankly, I'd
this
be open
presentation.
to if you guys had, like, I want to see. I mean, I don't really know that an octagon cupola makes sense, but it could be. The fenestration could change. This really is talking about the idea of bringing the cupola back.
Right. Tell me about the reason for the hip in the roof. Because it appears as if right along it's been a relatively flat roof.
Oh, the upper portion of the roof. Well, asphalt shingle roofs don't work at that
Well, don't-
pitch.
There are other ways to roof besides.
Right.
that.
Oh, yeah. We could do a rubber membrane roof.
I just wondered why you went to the hip, because
Uh,
it adds to the height significantly.
It does add to the height, but you don't see that height
Well, you will from a.
from the ferry, but
Yeah.
then also.
That's. what
The thing I will say is this building always felt odd because it was so much lower than its neighbors. Even 3-story buildings to either side of it were taller than it.
Glenn, do you have this photograph? You're welcome to take that. if you want.
Which one?
This was before Oddfellows Hall.
Is that the, is that the old,
The market?
can't see that far. Oh, yeah, that's before the iPhone was built
Right.
up. But that's the same building as this.
Yes, but a lot of things happened to the building since then.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
No, that's a great image.
It doesn't appear that it was lower than building to its north. Just how,
Well, again, if you go to P3,
that's what I'm looking at. is
Yep.
P3.
Oddfellows Hall is higher.
Yeah.
New
Yeah.
Shoreham House is not, but New Shoreham
met-
House is a story less.
Okay, we've got
Oddfellows.
a problem here with this photograph. The Oddfellows is not. That's not what the Oddfellows looks like. It's kind of squished down in the picture. The Oddfellows is a steeper,
This,
yeah.
that's just a photograph from the ferry.
It is burnt down.
No, I know, I'm talking about the Oddfellows. Oddfellows is a really steep, building. That's an angle issue.
I have a picture of Oddfellows. It's 36 feet high.
Well, I think the zoning, that there's as has been stated, there's a clause in the zoning about I think it's particularly hotels being able to be higher, and it has to do with what's within a, you say 500-foot radius? I don't remember the radius.
No, that's, yeah.
And I think
That's correct
I
for
think
the
that was-
Oddfellows, yeah.
Very particularly done because of the 4-story high without the Shops National and the 4-story third piece of the Surf Hotel. They're both, I think those are the only 2 4-stories down there.
Well, that's all up to zoning, Martha, so.
I know, that's
Yeah.
the point I'm making. Why are we talking about it?
Glenn?
Yes.
Question about the main entrance. Show it off on the right. That, I suppose, is driven by the fact your interior design.
It is, though it wasn't centered originally.
But aren't these buildings classically, or correct me if I'm wrong, but have the entrance centered?
Not necessarily.
Not-
And what I did is when I approached that element, this is the entrance to the hotel lobby, this is the entrance to the restaurant.
Yeah.
And they basically are symmetrical to the structure, so they're with 2 flanking.
You have 2 sets of stairs?
Yes, that set of stairs is pushed further to the end of the property line, because the grade is running up and it makes it a shorter set. And then what you see here is, again, from a a more, the way we use buildings and people spend time outside, is there's a group of doorways on the restaurant side, so that some of them all be more open.
Well, I think one of the things that happened with hotels out here over time, one of the greatest illusions is the Spring House is symmetrical. And it's not by any kind of measure. Something Herman Hassinger used to like to point out, that because of the grandeur of it, you just saw what your mind saw wasn't what was really in front of you. And I've looked at a lot of these and I think they line up and then they don't. Additions were put on, inexplicable additions were taken off, all kinds of strange things happened. The new Shoreham House as well, yes. Oh, I've got cool pictures of that one. Will sidetrack us.
And then the other key difference is I actually kind of wrapped that mansard and dormer treatment down the side elevations. So the chapel street elevation is a little bit more of a elevation.
Your drawings don't show any of the bric-a-brac on the post. Is that a later?
Well, that's later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the entrance is where? Wherever you happen.
With a primary, they're telling me that.
And that's the entrance, the primary, that's the key, the primary hotel entrance should also be your handicap primary entrance. You
Well-
can't make them go someplace else to get in.
Again, that's something. I'm happy to have some questions maybe about that. Yeah, I don't think it's really what we're here to talk about, but.
It has to do with siding and massing and parking and,
This brings you to the accessing.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The side entrance, the at-grade entrance that I designed. The secondary.
On Chapel Street.
Chapel Street brings you to the exact same staircase and elevator to the front.
but Glenn, if somebody is handicapped, either in a wheelchair or with a walker, they're going to be dropped off in the front, and instead of going in the front, they have to creep around to the side. And that's not right. That's against the ADA.
The situation, you also have to deal with the situation, that grade, there's no level place to enter into the building.
There is, you've made it.
You have to go down.
Right.
So then go up.
In other words, on A1, you have to go down here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you do today.
So the shops
It's-
aren't
it
handicapped
ramps down.
accessible.
They're handicap accessible.
How are they?
This folds down. This grade is.
Right,
several
so
feet
so
higher.
somebody goes in here, they go right in like that.
So, but you're telling me that instead of, you want them to come in here and then under a dark stairway come in as opposed to right here in the lobby to go.
Well,
up
it's
the
not
same
right
way.
there. It's halfway down the block.
Wait, we're kind of splitting hairs. But. Yeah, I mean, there are several buildings that have multiple entrances. And that's not a. The national.
What's the roof
Well,
of the
then you can't-
National?
you
I can't,
You can't talk about the National because that's an accommodation. This is a new building. The figurehead building, you go right in the front. The library, you go right in the front. The post office, those are the new buildings, and this is a new building.
but is that our purview?
No, it's handicap accessibility.
Right.
Is part of our purview, I think.
But I'm not saying that I don't have to make sure that everybody that has other purviews signs off, just like the fire code signs off.
Right.
EDA, zoning.
Now, the front entrance, are you leaving that open for a later discussion? Is that?
Well, the intent is to do a similar set of stairs to what was previously there.
Just, I look at the thing, it looks very busy sort of on the first floor. Not,
Well, again, window and door placement would be after that.
well, that'll significantly change the interior if we move the doors to the entrance to the center of the building.
I'm not suggesting to move this side.
No, I'm talking about move it to the left, to the center of the building.
Oh, to the center of the building? We can look at that. Frankly, it really, the existing building was not that, and the space of the second floor, the primary level, won't function because more than half of that was restaurant. So now if you go move it to the middle, now you've broken out the restaurant.
Right. That's what I said.
So there's some flexibility in there, but I don't think that the door's gonna plan out dead center. And actually that would then mean that when you go up the stairs, right now, I have it, you arrive at the desk. Again, not what we're really supposed to be talking about, that's inside the building, but you arrive at the desk, the elevator and the stairs are right there, because while the elevator is required, and I agree, needs to be there from a handicap standpoint, it also needs to be there from a modern accommodation standpoint.
Right,
Most
so,
people
so
don't
the
like carrying
design, the
baggage
design
on
of the
floors.
inside is driving what we're gonna look at on the outside.
Partially.
Maybe unnecessarily. I
Okay.
mean, if you had started with, we gotta have the doors in the center. And then you would go and design the interior.
Had I thought that, I don't know that I feel that that's a primary issue since the original structure it wasn't, but.
Then we would have said, why didn't you do it the way it was?
I mean, the building's not symmetrical in its function, one side's a restaurant, one side's an entrance, right? The hill makes the building not symmetrical. The history of the building, it was not symmetrical, but again.
Just as a matter of
The
curiosity,
position of the door is something that we can't discuss.
what are the size of the rooms roughly?
There, well, with bathroom, I don't have,
Looked like one of them was 8 by 10. That
you know,
it's 80 some square feet.
no, they're not. The rooms are almost 12 feet, they're 11 foot 10 by 16.
Well, the square footage that's written under the rooms, there was one I noticed, it was 88, I think.
But that's not our purview though.
I understand that, I'm just curious.
I like how, the lighting coming in from every room. That first level roof with the. It'll look nice coming from Chapel Street.
And what I've done is the corners, which you see in the large, that's not really what we're talking about, but those are the compliant rooms. They allow me extra space so there's actually 4 ADA compliant rooms. We're required to.
Or maybe I'm confused, sorry.
But yeah, rest assured, the rooms are on the side. They are. In terms of bed area. Something like the bed area is like 10 by 12. And then the bathroom and entry hall is gonna be.
Does anybody else have questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a few. First of all, I'm really glad to see these here. I feel as if we're not giving any appreciation to the fact that these plans clearly have been done with an eye to history, to a building that burned down, to a loss in our town. I think this is a extraordinary opportunity to put some definition in the way things should be done in town. I don't think necessarily following some rule book, Block Island's never been really good on that, is whether it applies or not, or you should apply. The cupola, yeah, we can do some work on the cupola. And I really am very pleased, because I was in that building and I thought I can't remember how or why, and if I could, I might not acknowledge it anyway. I think I knew somebody who worked there, or I don't remember. And it was really strange and really kind of freaky. And the only place you saw that, what did you call it? What I call an air shaft? You had a tour, the light well, from, you can see it in aerial pictures if you know where to look. That's really the only place you would see it. And I would have no idea it existed had I not ever been in the building. I think this is really exciting. I'm really glad to see plans that have been done with an eye to the history of Block Island. I hope we can keep working positively and constructively on this.
I would like to agree with what Martha said. I mean, I think we do all appreciate and recognize the effort that went into this. And, I think the idea of putting a cupola back is a pretty cool idea. I also agree with Martha, it's not there yet, but it's an opportunity, as Martha said. Personally, my preference is for a flatter roof. And I know this is a new building, so there are a lot of opportunities, but also as a new building in a significant historic stretch, I think having it raised maybe competes a little too much with the significant building. So I think even just lowering it to drop the height, just that couple of feet, would be my preference.
Or that'll be in the cupola. If,
No.
oh,
Right, that would be like a
But we'll see that in a next iteration, and that might be, it might be a point that tips us to go that direction. I mean, it's a conversation. Right.
also, you have pretty high ceilings. If it's possible to bring them down a little, that'll bring the building down.
Again, I'll give that, part of the problem I ran into was just general proportions is to make this floor with the dormers function. I actually had to stretch these floors a little bit so that this floor didn't top. Because the old building made it tight, and that was a very low floor. And to get it up to its required minimum standard, I did slightly inflate it. I would do just things as the building went up.
What they did at the at Finn's building, which I don't know if I agree with, is instead of double hungs on the top floor, they used casements in order to get the egress.
I hate casements because, especially in a community like this, you want your window open in the summer and they will.
Awful.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just,
So you're right.
I'm just,
In defense of the hip on the building, if you look at Estes next door, it has a similar hip.
Yes.
So
That's actually where I kind of picked up on
but
that.
it's a lower building.
I understand it's lower building, but it's,
And this is obviously substantially lower than the building.
If I may, Glenn, and I echo what Martha said. I was so pleasantly surprised to see these plans, and that, as Liz said, this is a recreation. That being said, I think as a board, we also need to look at a lot of this stuff with a mindset of this building is evolving. We have new regs on everything. And what I see here is the spirit of what should be, how it should be going forward. This is a recreation. modernized. We are gonna have to have 9-foot ceilings, 10-foot ceilings, which is what most modern places are. I think you've done a great job. I could definitely live without the cupola in this form, but as everyone said, we'll come back to it. But I think this is great. I think giving us an extra 3 feet on Chapel Street was fantastic. That's extremely tight and extremely dangerous. You know, we'd all like to think that people can walk down a sidewalk straight, but if you live here year round, you know they can't. And I've seen several people almost get clipped over there. You know, the one kid who's got to be on the outside, 1 foot in the road, 1 foot on the
Kid.
sidewalk.
And his kids.
Glenn, I have one.
I'm trying to give.
I have a
get grayer, I
question
try
here.
to just blame it all on
My-
them.
my-
Young at heart.
On
guess-
A2, you have a dashed line and a solid line, and I don't know what that depicts.
A solid line is actually the property line, and it does do something strange like that.
Okay.
On the survey I've got, the final survey, that is the 3-foot.
Okay, that's what-
3-foot or 2'6", but 3-foot, then this is that extra 6-foot.
Okay, I just wasn't sure.
I think for many of us, the concern when we lost the building is it's such a dominant spot on Water Street that the building needs to also echo that prime position. And I think you've done a nice job.
Yeah.
And I'm not, there's a lot of.
Yeah.
Well, there's another building that went through us last year, the year before, it's the Hygeia. And I mean, it's got the same pitch as the roof. It has a very proportional cupola. You wanna check it out, matter of fact, I'll send you some pictures. But you would think that this building was 120 years old, because you can buy a Hygeia right now, and it's got the same pitches, it's got the same windows, it's got the same. just looks
Yeah,
like
but
it's
it's not 4 stories. It's only 2 stories, the Hygeia, and
Three
3 stories. But this is 4.
solid.
Well, it's not a cellar, it's grade.
Technically, on the back, it's 4.
But anyways,
I know,
it
I
just
lived
looks
there.
like it belongs there. If I was coming to this island on the ferry to see this, I'd be impressed.
I agree.
So does anybody want to make any kind of motion?
I mean, what are you actually hoping for
Citing
us
this.
to just kind of approve the general direction of
Preliminary?
massing, or?
This is a preliminary app, so this would be for citing, massing. Citing's kind of silly. It's on the lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you brought it back, you,
Right.
yeah, brought it back.
But I do think that the way you have reconfigured the back is great. That's and a lot of people I think people didn't realize how big that footprint was, because the back of the building looks so like a different building. And it's really, I think it's a huge improvement.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to pass for citing and massing the application of VVO Real Estate Holding Group, Plat 6, Lot 107, file number 41, the Harborside, formerly the Harborside Hotel lot. The Harborside is a historic building.
This is not a historic building, so
Oh, it wasn't? It
it
wasn't?
was, but
Oh.
this is not.
I apologize. I stand corrected. It is not a historic building.
Recreation.
Recreation of the historic Harborside Hotel. Any other facts or findings that our historians want to throw in?
I'd like to offer an amendment or an addition that it be subject to review of the cupola and the front entrances.
And that it's a preliminary approval, subject to zoning and ADA.
And I would like to add an amendment that. The also review of the roof line.
Yeah, I will show the roof line both ways.
I don't agree with the roof line issue. I think the roof line is fine. I think the national roof line is like that. The national is much taller. And I can't remember where there is a building in town that has a flattish roof and it doesn't look great.
Can I say, question, you know, we already. asked.
Yeah, I'll
We
go,
haven't
I'll go
passed
over
anything.
again.
Yeah.
We haven't been seconded yet.
We're gonna see
I'm
like,
not trying to rush it, but
Okay.
they need to get to the vote and just keep it in one where.
The AC is gonna be inside that back seat.
okay.
Okay.
so-
What I've done is because what we keep calling the first floor,
Yeah.
the main level is a really high ceiling, but the kitchen doesn't need to be that high. I dropped that so that they sit, so that when you look out the window, you look over the AC, but they're inside that.
Okay, this, you know, like,
And
There you go.
you second? I have just one other question, Glenn, just for your consideration. You have the exhaust facing the side alley. Are you allowed to have livable rooms over that exhaust? Windows?
I would verify, and I can be sure, yes, but.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been seconded. All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you when we see you.
I'm gonna have to rewatch the sketch ball, but I got it.
wow, that's just, they're gonna go way past that.
I know it's going back and forth, but.
And you are?
Oh, it's Martin Miller, general maintenance of the building. My grandparents actually owned it with the Royal Hotel. I actually know why a lot of that design has been done the way it was. Very strange, but from a maintenance standpoint, which is kind of my responsibility there. Flat roofs on this island, on the front street there, where you get hit by the wind, it destroys them. It causes leaks, it causes damage. And I mean, that's just from a maintenance standpoint, they're a night, and that building, that roof was a night. So from a functional standpoint, me personally, and I also rent a shop on that, in that building as well, I would much prefer to have the asphalt roof than a flat rubber membrane roof, which I don't really like to put so in there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And just to expedite, let's get Glenn, let's get,
Just a side note. He's got to very cheap first.
I know that. That's, and I think I think yours is relatively easy.
Try it.
And if I understand this, all you're doing basically is adding mechanical?
Exactly. Just doing two things. Doing something different to the building. Other than improvement, gaining the light. But there is gonna be 3 pedestrian units on the north side of the building. The drawing. APO1 shows the unit. If you're familiar with that building on the north side of the building, it's actually got.
Yeah, I know it.
Pretty much green from any visual.
How come they're so big?
Sometimes it gets exaggerated into two, you know. They'll be the same size as most of the ones you see right now. And then the other item is going in below the exterior stair. Make that, let's not forget the doorknobs. And the doorknob. Well, we don't overlook that. right?
New door locks, right?
Have these units been selected?
Use the pedestrian.
Yep.
I don't believe they have, but I think this is probably standard size. They're mostly probably could be even smaller than that. They're generally like 18 by 32. In terms of brand.
would you be able, when they are selected, could you come back with a picture of them? Or-
There's just the specs for the height, just on an A200, it's kind of cuts through the window. Yeah, more for a record.
Not that it's under our purview, but if you look at the second floor, the living room, kitchen, looks like a hallway to me.
Yeah. Well, it's existing and my only thing is you have an existing mechanical room on A100 and you have to go through the closet. Is that legal?
$101.
No, it's A100.
Oh, I was talking about $101.
I think pretty much this is how it is now.
Yeah.
So with these units, they don't have any piping that's going to be shown on the exterior of the building, is there?
Don't believe that.
Well, can we get a preliminary approval pending us seeing the units? Does anybody want to make a motion for that? Unless you don't approve.
I'd make a motion for the property at 440 Dodge Street to have mechanical units.
32.
32 what?
Well, that's the owner of the location.
Location of
Oh.
property 440 Dodge Street.
Got it.
To have the mechanical units as presented in the application.
Pending.
Pending confirmation of the specifications with no piping exposed on the exterior. And also the storage area as per the application.
Really?
Second.
No. Okay, yeah. You seconded, right? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll see you with the units. Go catch your boat.
Bye.
Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, you want to talk about your project?
Yeah, as you know, we were here in September. And, before
package that met with some criticism. So we went back to the drawing board based on your critique of that. And we did, I think, hit every item that was mentioned. First of which was an architect should be used. So we reached out to Doug Gilpin and was able to work with him. And that was a fantastic relationship. He watched the video of the last meeting, knew exactly what you all were speaking of, and took that to generate what we have today. What was mentioned at the last meeting, you didn't like the two garage doors on the front, so we put one on the front, one on the side. We still need to have access to get two cars into the garage, but from the street, you would only see one. There was a comment about the deck running all the way across the back of the unit. And so we changed that to shrink that footprint down a bit and still make it usable. This will be a summer home for my folks and then a winter home for whoever on the island needs it, wants to rent it. So it needs to be accessible and livable. And you wanted it to look like an auxiliary building. So Doug took that and said, we're going to change the siding. We're going to change the roof pitch and not copy exactly what the house looks like. So that's what we've done. This is what has come of it. And we hope that we can get the approval to be able to move ahead and do both preliminary and final approval tonight.
Well, it's not a.
How does the height compare to the main building?
How does the height? It's the same.
I'm
It's lower. It's much lower.
sorry,
30 feet.
what's 30 feet?
The height.
The main building or your?
No.
This
That's-
Have it at 27.
27.
And what is your building? The house?
I don't know offhand.
Auxiliary building is only allowed to be 25 feet high.
We had that comment. Doug actually went back and found that it was 30. Because
And what?
Doug went back and found that it was 30.
What was 30? No, it's.
It was
25.
allowed
It's
to be
25.
30.
In that zone, are we sure?
Yeah, it's service commercial.
Big changes.
Yeah, it is service commercial. And he did go back and double check that because we were working on the 25-foot height and then realized that we didn't have to stress about that. We could do 30.
For clarification and consistency,
Yes.
it's labeled differently on what you gave us. So is this being filed and submitted as accessory residential garage?
Yes, I believe
Okay,
so. It's
just-
a
I'm-
garage. Yeah,
Because on the site plan, you still have it listed as garage.
garage. No, adding the second floor will make it
But it's not a two-car garage because you can't possibly get two cars in with one door on one side and one door on the other.
the cars we have, we can.
What are they, Mini Coopers?
Right now, we have one car and plenty of extra.
You can't, I mean, I don't know why. you
We're,
just don't-
we're trying to work with what
You're
you,
gonna go in from the side, why not go both cars in from that side so you don't see the garage door in the front?
because we don't want to drive the cars around. We want to use the front as we do now.
And I like the garage in the front. I mean, it is a garage.
Yeah, it is a
now.
garage.
It's.
Can you see two cars in the garage?
I do have, on there's a little bit of inconsistency in what was presented.
Okay.
And first of all, thank you for doing what you've done. It's, you really did pay attention to us.
It was fun to work with Doug on this
and-
because he knows, backwards, forwards. He
For
knows.
example, on the large drawing,
Yeah,
the treatment of the barn garage doors.
yes.
Somewhere there's a photo, it looks like there are strap hinges. Is that
We're going to make them look like barn doors. That's what you folks
Okay.
asked for. And that's what we will do.
and then over that, there's something that says a rooflet,
It's just
but later on, and there's something that looks like just a sheet metal flashing. So
It's-
what is it?
it's just a short shingled roof just for weather and protection on the door.
And why is it a shingled, and this maybe is something that you can answer, why does it need to be a shingled roof as opposed to just the flashing? No, just a piece of, or flashing an AZAC. I mean, you see that a lot.
These are
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, I've done
I
this in
hate
the
them.
last 3 houses. I hate both of them, but they're.
Right, I
every
just-
single one.
Well, and I think it gives it a better look. I mean, obviously that's subjective, but
They're on the
I was
bank.
on-
yeah.
They're on the bank.
Brings
They're
up the
on
wall.
the.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Right now we've got that lanai thing
Yeah.
over the
On the-
pergola.
It looks like the existing house is also the same height. We're very close to it, 30 feet. So you're gonna have a wall.
Well, they're saying that the new proposed auxiliary structure is shorter than
Yes,
their existing
28
house.
feet.
Oh, they don't. No, they don't.
Well, and I don't have,
They don't know.
Arlene, I don't have the plans for our existing house that
I'm just
obviously,
looking at the photos, I mean, you can count the shingle.
yes.
The drawings don't show corner boards, although we talked about corner boards.
They will match the existing house, the AZAC white corner boards.
Are there gutters that are gonna be?
No. We have to do a whole water drainage system, right?
There will be better.
Okay.
We have to capture the rainwater and.
Those should be reflected in the drawing.
Yeah.
As corner boards.
We can resubmit those. But they would match the same corner boards on the house.
I think it's important to know What's the height of the adjacent buildings?
Existing building.
Is this thing as big as the other house? It's a question of
I believe
Yeah,
it's
it is.
not, but.
I think it is.
Sweet. But they do look nice.
No, I don't.
Yeah. Sixteen 24. And that's.
I like this little history photos.
It's 4 generations worth.
It's about, the first floor here would be 10 feet, 20 feet. It might even be higher than the existing house.
It's definitely not higher than the existing house because the new roof pitch on the on the new portion of the house has some elevation from. I'm trying to, if I had known, I could have brought the drawing from then, but we can certainly make it subject to not being the
Well,
same
this is
height.
the existing house, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the part that's closest to the garage.
And so where exists accessory buildings aren't supposed to be higher than houses?
I'm sure Doug hasn't chimed in yet. But that, I know we had this conversation. We were under the first impression that it was supposed to be 25 feet. And then we realized that the guidelines were 30.
Actually, I'm sorry, I was asking out of the board.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry,
I
sorry.
don't think there's a hard fast rule for that.
Well, I
It's
don't
just
think
the
there is either.
logic.
Well, yeah, but logic doesn't, if you go around and look at buildings around here, that doesn't always apply.
But right, I mean, what auxiliary buildings are bigger than the building?
Well, generally a 2-car garage is 20 by 20 or 24 by 24. This is 24 by 32. That's a lot bigger than this, a 2.5-car garage.
But it's an accessory building that has a garage underneath.
And an apartment above.
No one's calling it a garage.
I mean, it's a living space above as well.
Oh, yeah.
But just to that point, my house is 25 by 25, so that's a living space too, so. With a full 2-car garage below.
Surprised, Doug wanted to make it different, right?
Yeah. Well, we were told it needed to look different than,
Same pitch as the house. would have been a couple. The garage, this is like a- No, 9.
9.
9. And that's a 7.5, maybe.
Anyway.
he said
I
it's,
wasn't here for the meeting, I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you can.
Mark, you're welcome to. And you know the roof from the first house, so. You don't remember the height, do you?
Close.
Yeah.
really close. But is it an issue about being?
I know it shouldn't be. Like I said, if you look around house buildings around the island. They aren't necessarily. This isn't suburbia.
It's
not-
basically another house, Martha, that's being built. It's a second
Yeah,
house.
I got that.
I mean, are there any, in speaking to Doug, and I know you did what we asked, but in speaking to Doug, are there any ways to get what you want functionally and get the roof height lowered?
Well, I know that we're dealing with what kind of height in the,
You can probably come down a little bit because it's
But is it
it's
in-
at 9, 12 now.
But it's not, it's within the zoning.
it's within guidelines.
Yeah.
Right, I
Matter of
did-
fact, today he sent that to me just to be sure.
Trying to trust it.
I just think aesthetically, particularly with the evolution of the house with the photos you gave.
Yeah.
Just kind of shows, it's very low on one end, then it grows, and then suddenly you've got
Well, at least it's on that
this,
side.
agreed. But it just seems.
I
to-
think that's how, it's hard to balance the living space above and the garage below and still.
Understood.
Yeah.
I think huge improvement.
Trying to make
I
everybody happy.
still think the overall massing is still quite large. but I know you're trying to.
We're already,
accomplish a lot to fit
CRMC
it
is
in.
already, we're 95% of the way with them.
But you can't.
Okay, 9-foot first floor, 8-foot second floor, Doug is saying.
So it's gonna be cathedral?
Well, with the truss root.
It's gonna be a trust.
Oh, it's a truss roof? Okay. I mean, you could, I mean, if you wanna make it a little smaller, then if it's gonna be a truss roof, just drop it to a 7 pitch.
Yeah.
You didn't order them yet.
No,
No.
no, we hope to.
Everybody happy if we moved it to a 7 from a 9?
Much better.
Yeah, he made it steeper.
For height will come down.
The garage looks like it's up a step.
Oh, no, I've got no problem with it being a 9.
I have
I'm
no
just trying to
problem.
get them siding and massing, so if you can get
If
the
it-
whole board to agree on making it an 8 pitch, it'll drop it a foot,
As long as they order
and then we'll all be.
No, we have not ordered anything yet.
In the zoning.
Everything's on hold.
Well, I know it's within the zoning, but it's, I think more personally, I think for the,
Okay, how about this one? Is there any mechanical stuff in the attic that maybe Doug went to a 9 pitch?
No.
There's no mechanical.
Can you finish what you had to say?
no, I just, if there's any way, my preference is to drop it a bit. If Doug can do that.
Oh,
And again, not trying to
often
give you.
historic barns
not-
were taller than houses.
Sorry?
Often historic barns were taller than houses, and it's a truss roof, is what he's saying. He's texting me. He's watching.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Doug.
It doesn't look like a barn. It looks like a house. Doesn't look like a 2-car garage. Looks like a house.
Well, we can put two garage doors on the front of it, but last meeting you said you didn't want that, so that's,
Oh, I think I like this better personally.
okay.
I think you did a wonderful job in
Uh,
the original house. You
Oh, thank
brought
you.
it along.
Thank you. Labor of love.
I agree with the Senate folks down here. It's just a very large building. And be tucked in so close to the other house is just not proportionate to the main building.
One of the other things I should just mention is that the way this is going through with CRMC, we actually can't even clear the land in front of the garage, so it will be largely hidden by the existing
Shrubbery.
or landscaping. That's not landscaping, but natural bush
Vegetation.
vegetations that's on that side. It barely comes to the first garage door there.
Essentially, what's there has to stay. And we're just cutting
Why
out
can't you
around.
slide it up behind your house?
We
Because-
can't- we were originally thinking we'd put it up on the street, the normal setbacks, but again, CRMC is
But
pretty
can't
much
you slide
mandated.
it, can't you slide it behind your house a little?
We can't move it at all.
CRMC has
CRMC.
locked in that location.
It's split here, one wants low pitch and somebody's, where are we?
Well, I don't think there's any point in putting a lower pitch on for the sake of having a lower pitch. I don't like, I think, okay. If we're talking about a historic district, we are, this house is, I hate to acknowledge, has creeped into historic, but because I remember when it was built. I like the look of this. The view from Ocean Avenue. Northwest is a whole different ballgame. I'm not a fan of pulling the roof down, decreasing the pitch, just for the sake of pulling it down. I mean, I'd rather give a variance to build it. If I were on the zoning board, I would give a variance to make it higher. But I'm not in the zoning board. I do know there are different standards in the various zones with accessory buildings. It has caused some confusion in the past. So I don't doubt that that's going to be.
Any other questions on the board? I'll make a motion.
Well, just, and I don't, if the pitch is lowered to a 7, Does that functionally affect it and does it reduce the massing slightly or?
But,
Yeah.
Well, so,
Cause I don't want to do anything that affects what you need functionally.
would it be 2 feet? Wait, well, it's 24 wide, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
24 wide, we're
Would it be
dropping
about
2
2 feet
inches
lower?
over the 24. Yeah, it's gonna gain you, a foot. No, it's gonna gain you 2 feet. It's gonna gain you 2 feet.
Yeah. Right.
What you like is like Martha said.
I like it the way it is.
Hmm?
I like it the way it is. I think if you drop it, it's gonna.
I mean, have you driven by there? It's gonna be, right now it's just a little.
I've been all over there, Tom.
Building.
I'm a contractor. I stop and see Joe all the time. Last summer, obviously.
He'll be back.
Is it? Would it be possible to get the proposed, the auxiliary structure on the plan or elevation next to the house? I mean, I think maybe
Yeah.
I'm quibbling because maybe I'm imagining it different than it is.
Well,
Or at least
Well, it is
just that
on-
edge of the
it's on
house. Like,
plan here. You don't have a photograph of what it would,
I know.
the relationship is what you're looking for.
And what would this pitch be in this
7.
photo? So this would be 7.
That's like from the eye, that's him. He'll know. what it
Right,
is.
but
That's probably a 6.
so this is even less.
yeah, and the architect
Ye-
present us, you head on, front on the existing building with the proposed building next to it. And then we have a better feel for the relationship of the two buildings. I think that's the issue. I agree with Martha, it'd be too bad to reduce the pitch flat and roof down. Because it's not a bad looking building by itself.
You know, I
It
don't-
just looks big.
I don't know if you remember before we did the renovation, but the second story of the existing house has a pitch that we didn't really like the aesthetics of.
But they were just talking about that.
Oh.
that little
Okay.
pitch.
Yeah.
It's not-
Yeah, I remember you had to change that.
Yeah, I wish I had the height of that other building, but I don't. In my.
Well, if there's any way for us to provide that and still be able to move forward, we were really hoping to get the preliminary and the final approval so that we could then keep going. There's no meeting in December and you know how long it takes to plan.
So how big is your existing house, do you know?
The height.
No, the footprint.
Square footage.
Oh,
Oh, it's easy.
again, didn't think to bring those plans. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Really?
Vision appraisal stuff.
Amanda, if you pull that up.
On board.
Oh, okay. Well, that may show us the height too.
Now
Ah.
it's speaking.
Aha.
Yeah, cheapers.
Oh, it wouldn't be from the first submittal that I put in, sorry. No. I thought you were pulling out our application from the Reno. Shoot.
I just got all the stuff. I didn't know if you had the.
It now is, what name is it again? The ownership?
The what?
The ownership is in your name?
It's in a trust. I'm trustee.
But what,
You know which is,
what's the name of the
It's
trust?
Carol B. Tushik Irrevocable Trust.
you know what your zone
The
is? What
spelling is what I need.
Is it on here?
Zoning?
Oh, it's on there.
Oh, yeah, it's on the application, right?
USCHEK?
TUSCHICK.
I'm sorry.
TUSCHICK. Let's see. You know what? It's probably on that site plan that's in that folder from the first time. Okay,
There's a lot there.
yeah.
It doesn't say what the zone is. Site plan.
You're right, just says plot 5, lot 14. What does the zone,
Well, I want to know if it's really, I can't imagine it's 30 feet.
Service commercial zone.
Commercial zone?
Service commercial zone.
You know, and maybe my concern of the height is a non-issue because your garage is set back from the house, so visually it's gonna appear lower anyway. I mean, I'm really not trying to have you come back in 2 months.
Hold on, Doug's just chimed in. Service commercial zoning. And we would go back further if we could, but we can't.
No. Well, and this is the footprint of your garage.
Yeah. Zoning SC, Arlene, zoning SC,
SC,
service commercial.
okay.
Say that again.
I think Elizabeth's comment about.
Setback. And it starts when the house ends. So it's the whole distance of the house further back.
Right, so visually.
It's back.
The height's gonna feel lower, and as you said, the packet screens.
Looks like it's even further than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts where the back porch is on the house.
Yeah.
And more.
So it's going where the,
The front corner of the existing garage is where this will start.
So it will start here, go and go this way. So it's set back that far still.
yeah, okay.
That's
So
gonna be
you-
yeah.
The front is gonna be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be nice to have a pitch way.
I would prefer it.
Have we resolved the zoning?
No, I
It's
think,
not our issue. Nobody has.
it is our issue if we approve it based on,
Well, can't we conditionally approve
Yeah.
it, assuming that
right.
zoning accepts it? I make a motion.
Okay.
Oh, well, no, you're gonna make this motion. You'll do this motion and I'll second it. Well, I can't find the paperwork. You start.
With, that's it.
Condition to zoning.
Providing, that it meets,
So
zoning.
Doug just chimed in. He said confirmed, service commercial max height for main and accessory structures are 30 feet.
Well, then I second that motion.
Thanks, Doug.
You want it for preliminary and final? Mike?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I wish the corner boards were on the drawing. and-
That corner boards will
And-
will look just like
And the
the,
hinges. and
Yeah.
all that, so it was, application is actually complete.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The pain is over.
thank you.
Mazel tov.
Get excited, yeah.
I know. No, now it's the tough part, right? Oh, believe me,
So when is Carol coming back to live in it?
next summer. Well, no, not next summer, because we won't have it done by then.
Mike made it go.
Oh,
But you guys have
yes,
history.
We did,
Yeah.
Yeah,
long history.
I know. She's watching. You better behave yourself.
Three windows.
Yeah.
Shorter.
I think that looks weird though.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Character in the bottom here, but this being shorter profile,
What day is the meeting?
you know, not tall and three windows wide.
Yeah.
It makes it look like a temple. It might be the main change.
And thank you,
How they have a sweeping roof,
thank you for your patience.
Yes, that's.
so that kind of. Took that temple out of it.
Good night. Yeah, 'cause otherwise it's like.
Yeah, Michael made them do that.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Okay,
Oh, this-
we have,
I have a dog who's waiting for me to get home. Let's
Yeah.
go.
okay, we have have you heard anything about one?
This one's my update. Sarah emailed me saying that they just finished up their training for this year. And they are gonna start their virtual trainings in the beginning of next year, hopefully by March. So that we'll be able to plan a day where everyone can come spend the day with me and do some training here.
We gotta stay at
Okay.
execution.
Okay, good.
Okay, we're just saying cookies, now you want cupcakes.
I want those little chocolate things.
They're all. We'll pay
Okay.
for it.
And has everybody seen the meeting schedule for next year?
Yeah, I mean, offhand,
The only thing we changed was April because it's first night of Passover.
Right.
So,
All right. Does anyone else have any travel plans? So that way I can, if she does the training, I can work around that.
but it would be in March.
I don't know. She just
Okay.
said the first part of her year, so I'm just gonna
I-
work on that.
I'm gonna be away, but I've already had, I don't need it.
Yeah.
February.
Yeah.
maybe block February off as a possibility.
I
Yeah.
January as well.
I've talked to her about that. She didn't give me a set time frame. She just was beginning of June, so I can, maybe
Okay.
not be then, I'll do that.
I'm weeks down, but,
Yeah, I am too.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't think that far ahead.
Yeah, right, I couldn't either, but it's okay. Thank you for. Okay, we're on the schedule. Anyone have questions about discussion?
Not at this time.
No meeting in December. Approval of the minutes from October. Has everybody read them?
Wait, hold on. You approve the schedule?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I've read the minutes. I don't have any changes. Does anybody have any changes or?
No changes.
So can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes as prepared.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good holiday.